Hey there, Braves fans. I'm Wayne Cavadi from the Battery Power Minor League team. And today we're talking baseball with JJ Niekro. Thanks for joining me today, JJ.
Thank you for having me, Wayne. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we'll get to this in a little bit, but our paths crossed a little bit before your Braves career started. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I want to start at the beginning. Obviously there's no hiding your last name with Braves fans listening to this little interview. Your dad is Joe Niekro, and that makes your uncle Phil Niekro. Between the two, they played 46 years of Major League Baseball. What was it like growing up in Niekro?
Yeah, you grew up around a baseball field for sure. And my brother Lance, who I played for at Florida Southern, also played in the big league. So everywhere you look, it's someone with a ton of baseball experience and someone who wants to share a ton of baseball knowledge as well. All three of them are just incredible people. And I remember pictures from when I was just a couple of weeks old. My dad put a little plastic baseball in my hand, a little soft baseball bat. So I knew right away I was destined to be on a baseball field somewhere. But it's an absolute joy because they were just such great men and great people, and they loved to share the game with everyone they met. So I was fortunate to be in that position.
And my next question was gonna be, was it like 1 year old where you learned how to throw a knuckleball? Is that
Maybe a baseball to start. I specifically remember being maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, wherever the earliest age of memories are, in the YMCA, just playing catch with my dad after he was done working out or something. But that was the first time I remember throwing a baseball. And no, my dad never really taught me the knuckleball because my hands weren't big enough when he passed away. But over the years, I kind of picked up on it, and Uncle Phil showed me a little bit. But every day in catch, when I was little, I'd ask him to throw it, and he'd always baby a little bit. And whenever he threw a true one, I could never catch it. It was just way too good.
yeah. And you talked about it. You were still pretty young when your dad passed away. How has that, shaped your career? Has that given you kind of little, I don't want to say edge, but extra motivation to carry on?
Yeah, so I was 8 when my dad passed away, and obviously, if he would have been there, I think I would have been a lot better baseball player because you're receiving the best instruction in the world from a Major League Baseball player every single day. But I used it to kind of shape my mental game, honestly, the most. I had to look for instruction from a lot of other coaches when I was growing up, and I realized that we're never guaranteed another day in life, so work as hard as you can every single day. A big mindset I still like to carry is when I go to bed every night, I like to try to fall asleep right away because that means I worked as hard as I could at baseball that day, as hard as I could at school, as hard as I could at whatever I was doing throughout the day. So just 100% focus, 100% effort to every little thing is something I definitely learned after he had passed away.
Yeah, and that's taking the positive, taking the silver lining out of it.
Mhm.
It's fun. I'm nearing 50 years old. And it's funny for me because I didn't have internet and everything. And I remember your dad and your uncle as Yankees because I grew up in the
Yeah.
Northeast, right? And so my understanding of who they were baseball cards, right? And I'm like, oh, look, this is cool. There's two brothers on the same team. And then you look at the back of the baseball card and you're like, whoa, these guys have been different for 20 years now. And it's such a great story that they got to pitch together a couple times
Mhm.
as teammates, in Atlanta, they,
On the Braves, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
really,
I grew up a Mets fan because my mom's side of the family is from, yeah, New
wow.
Jersey. And my dad and my uncle never played for the Mets, but the
Yeah.
last baseball game I ever watched my dad was a Mets game. It was the '06 or '05 playoffs, and he always said how much he liked David Wright, how much he carried him, how well he carried himself. So I always modeled myself after David Wright on the field, off the field, after my dad had passed away. And when I joined the Braves, I remember texting my cousin who was a diehard Braves fan. I said, I'm finally rooting for the Braves in this Braves versus Mets game. So it was definitely a cool memory, and the organization's just been so awesome and so cool to be with.
That's great. Now, before we get to the Braves,
Yeah.
I want to discuss, like I said, you're from the D2 baseball world, and so am I.
Mm.
So I've been watching you for a little bit. We connected a few years ago, and you mentioned that your brother was your coach, but also something else you have in common with your dad is that he went to a small college. He went to West Liberty, right? Which
Yeah.
was it wasn't D2 then, but it's D2 now. So you have
Mm.
that in comparison with him. So, like you said with Lance, we throw another 4 years of MLB experience into
Yeah.
your bloodline. What was the recruiting process like, and how did you wind up with the Mocs?
I remember I was looking at a lot of schools in general because I was never throwing hard enough to go to like the Florida or Florida State, but I know like Boston College has reached out to me. Some of the smaller Power 5 schools. I knew I wanted to stay in Florida just so I could be close to home. You have the year-round training with baseball. I had a lot of really good coaches close to home. And I remember Lance texted me in January of my senior year. He said, are you just going to come play for me already? And then he showed me campus for the next couple of days, and I eventually committed to Florida Southern. But I learned so much in my 4 years at D2, or 5 years actually, because I redshirted because I had Tommy John in 2020. But I would never trade. D2 baseball is the absolute best thing there is. There's some really, really good players in the Sunshine State Conference too. You look at the guys who have been drafted or signed the past couple of years, and they've kind of torn up the minor leagues because there's really, really just great talent. So I wouldn't trade that for the world. And yeah, it's kind of how I ended up at Florida Southern. I knew I'd be there because Lance was there, but it was a dream come true that I could be close to home and play in front of so many friends and family.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the Tommy John, and if I remember correctly, 2019 you started the year on the shelf too. You missed like a few, one of those years, 2018.
Yeah, so 2018, 2019, my elbow was bothering me both years. I actually partially tore my elbow at the end of the 2018 season. I tried to pitch on it in the World Series like an idiot, and I think that kind of hurt me a little bit more. In 2019, I had that partial tear. I eventually ended up fully tearing it 2 weeks before COVID in 2020. So I flew up to New York to get the surgery. The day I flew up, they canceled all surgeries in New York because of COVID. So I flew back down the next day, got the surgery done here. The next day, they canceled all elective surgeries in Florida. So I lucked out by the skin of my teeth. But yeah, I was really happy to get it done. I felt great ever since.
When did you kind of, obviously that's a lot of setback, when did you kind of realize there was, hey, maybe I have a chance to do this on a pro level?
Honestly, I've always realized that. I knew my mental game was a lot more advanced than a lot of other people, just because I've been through my dad passing away, my uncle passed away recently, and the experience that they gave to me at such a young age. Physically, I just hadn't put it together, because once you have like a little ligament tear or a tendon bothering you, it takes a toll on you mentally, physically, spiritually, really in every aspect of the game. So this off season, I felt so much better. My velocity went up a little bit. My stuff got better. And going into spring training this year, I felt like I belonged with everyone. I knew I could get professional hitters out on a consistent basis. I've been doing that this year. So just looking forward to continuing that day by day this year and keep the health going.
So after Florida Southern came the MLB Draft League and right? And the one thing I remember that stood out to me is every I think it was every Monday, they came out with the hot sheet. And I saw that you were like number 3 with 95 miles an hour. And I'm like, whoa, okay, he's starting to feel it again. So obviously you were coming into your own then, but that leads me to to 2 questions. Do you find yourself playing with a constant chip on your shoulder for A, being from that small college, and B, trying to say, hey, I'm not just Joe's son, I'm actually my own Niekro?
Yeah, definitely being from a small college, I think you play with a chip on your shoulder because you were never recruited by the big D1 guys. Even last year at the draft, there was a couple teams that reached out to me, and I thought that maybe they would take me, and eventually they either didn't communicate with me or passed up. So I think I have more of a chip on my shoulder from that. And then being as my dad's son, my uncle's and Phil as my uncle, I wouldn't say there's a chip there because I know I'm never going to strike out 3,000 guys in the big leagues or play 20 years. It's more of just carrying on the pride of the Niekro last name and just knowing how happy they would be for me. Obviously, the goal is to make the big leagues, but right now it's just to take the joy of playing professional baseball every day and trying to be the best teammate I can to everyone, and just realizing the Niekros are meant to be in baseball. And that's something that I know my dad, my uncle, and Lance are all really, really happy for me doing right now.
Yeah. And, right now it's a joy watching you pitch the way you're doing. And we're going to get to that now. You get signed by the Braves. Your uncle's number hangs in the stadium, what is that feeling like? You mentioned it a little bit earlier with the Mets and the Braves, but what is the feeling like on that day when you're like, okay, I'm a Brave?
Yeah, I remember specifically getting the call. I was in Frederick, Maryland, and I was calling every one of my family and friends, telling them that I'm going to be a Brave. And it's a moment I'll never forget, because you always see people, the first rounders, the second rounders, sign their contract, all the pictures and the hats and stuff in the background. Sign my contract on a phone in a locker room in Frederick, Maryland, of a team that's not even affiliated with the minor leagues anymore. So that's the way I came through. It was gritty Division II baseball. It was gritty signing it there. So I guess that's where the chip on my shoulder comes from, always being like the underdog or never having the highlight experience. But I wouldn't trade it any other way, because that's the way I like things done. I like to work hard and just keep my head down and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now you're wearing number 36. I
Yeah,
know
my
that.
dad's number.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
has it always been 36? Because your dad was on a few teams. He had a bunch of different numbers. I didn't know if that was always your dad's number and that's why it's yours.
yeah, that was always my dad's number with, I think, Houston specifically. And he played 10 years in Houston, and everyone in my family either had 36 or 35 as their numbers. The first day of that we got assigned to Augusta this year, I rushed straight to our clubhouse manager. I said, "Please give me 36," and I was fortunate enough to have it. But it's just so cool seeing like 36 with the Astros. They didn't retire his number, but he's in the Hall of Fame, the Astros Hall of Fame that started in 2018, I believe. Then obviously Uncle Phil's number with the Braves. It's in the cafeteria at our spring training complex. It's outside all the rooms, outside all the meeting rooms. It's just a dream come true. It's like affirmation from God that I'm meant to be there, and Uncle Phil's watching over me at every little step.
And if I think I read correctly, your aunt lives in Augusta now, so you have even more family with you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was Phil's sister. She used to catch the knuckleballs from Phil and my dad Joe growing up. Every day in the backyard, she'd catch them. She probably could still catch them if she wanted to. But it's so great to be with her. And then we're in Fayetteville right now. I have a cousin here. I have a cousin in Charleston. So all the teams are playing in the Carolina League. It's like destined to be that I get to see everyone at each stop along the way.
Yeah, that's definitely lucky. You started this year in the bullpen. You moved to the rotation. It's probably a silly question watching how your recent success, but where are you most comfortable?
Honestly, a lot of people ask me that question, and it doesn't really affect me in either way. I like starting because I have a set routine of I like to be at this spot at this time throughout my routine. I like to do this then. But in the bullpen, once you get in the game, I try not to look at the scoreboard or not know what inning it is, because it's the same thing. We want to execute our game plan, whether it's the first inning, the ninth inning, there's runners on base, nothing changes. And I think at this level, and even in the big leagues sometimes too, guys can get so caught up with like the starter mindset, middle relief mindset, the closer mindset. The game plan really doesn't change. It's execute your strengths, know the scouting report, and go ahead. But I have had success going in the starting rotation. I think I do feel comfortable there since I did it a lot in college, and I'm a big routine guy. So I do like being there, but if I went to the bullpen or if I get turned into a one inning guy, it's whatever they want from me.
So we talked a little bit about your velocity, which is nice on the fastball, but one thing I noticed watching your past few starts is that your off speed stuff, you're not afraid to throw it, right? You like you said, you're going to attack. That's your mentality. Talk us through how JJ Niekro attacks a hitter.
I don't want to give away all my secrets on attacking hitters, but I'll really throw anything at any count. I think this offseason I got caught up with trying to learn a couple new pitches, and the Braves kind of dumbed it back down to say, hey, these are your best pitches. We're going to throw these, master these, and attack the zone with them. I really like my slider. That's one thing they've really liked as well, and I feel like I can throw that in any count. But I think the big thing is the strike zone has definitely gotten smaller over the years. If you look at like videos from the 1980s, 90s, early 2000s, they're calling pitches a foot outside. And now our pitching director really emphasizes just let's attack the zone. The zone's smaller. We want hitters to swing, because if hitters swing, it's either going to be a foul ball, a ball in play, or a swing and miss. And all three of those go in our favor. So we have the numbers, and that's where the attack mindset really comes into play.
Yeah, and it's working. So let's talk a little bit about this streak. 22.2 straight shutout innings. There are hot streaks, and then there are 3 straight shutout starts. You are on a roll. What do you feel is going right now for you? Obviously, it's a lot of the defense behind you, but what's going right for you?
I think our mental coach, Zach Sorensen, has really helped me come up with a good routine. And if in the past, when I would be on a streak like this, I would definitely get caught up and say, hey, I've been giving up a run in the past 2 games or whatever. Now it's a big phrase he uses is control what you can control. And even in the couple of the outings, I didn't feel my best. So I went out there, I said, I'm going to control what I can control, attack the game plan, and go from there. So a big thing is just mental stability, living pitch to pitch, and living in the moment with every batter. I could go out there the next batter and give up a first pitch home run. If I execute my pitch, it's okay, because I'm sure there's a couple games where I've missed middle with a slider, with a fastball that easily could have just been hit out of the park. So give up a run, it's whatever. Just keep attacking the game plan, and I try not to get caught up in streaks or scoreless innings too much, but they are nice.
Yeah. And as you and I were talking before we jumped on, your next start got bumped from Sunday to Tuesday to give you that little extra rest. Is that the whole concept of the 6-man rotation? Yeah, I mean, your family would laugh at that. Two guys that pitch a million innings a year.
I remember my uncle said one of his teammates started game one of a doubleheader, pitched all 9 innings, and started game 2. So imagine something like that happening nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 6-man rotation is good. I think it's really nice for me coming off Tommy John too, where I'm not rushed back into every 5 days throwing. But I think I did it once earlier this year. I had a normal 5-day rotation start. But again, it's really whatever they ask of me. The extra day is because we have so many pitchers down here, and they're trying to figure out who's going to be good for the starting rotation. So whatever the Braves want our pitching coordinator, I just go when my number's called. And I think that's another big thing on the mental side too. That's the D2 mindset. It's like, all right, we're here, let's do it.
Yeah. Now, before we go, I'm going to make you blush a little bit. You're someone who did it right the whole way in college. You weren't just a great athlete, you were a great student athlete, right? Constantly on all academic lists as well, as your pitching things, accolades. Here you are, you're utterly dominating minor league baseball, coming out of a small college with those good grades, being the student. What advice do you have for the next generation trying to make their mark?
In baseball or in the world?
Everything. Just how you got here.
Yeah. I went to Jesuit high school in Tampa, and one thing they always stressed is the little things. And I gave a convocation or a speech there to all the students, and I said, greatness is really built in the little things. Specifically, if you look at a pitcher like Max Scherzer, watch his routine before games. Every little thing he does is right. He's not just going up there and blowing 99 by guys. It's 92 located perfectly, 94 located perfectly. But it's because every little thing he does is right. His mental game before, he's nourishing his body correctly. He has that look in his eye that he knows he wants to be out there and compete. And if you go to the real world too, the way you separate yourself in the workplace is by doing every little thing right. Bosses, scouts, coaches are always looking for a reason to cut you or tell you you're not good enough. But if you check every little box, they can't have a lot to complain about. And that's something I think I've done coming from a D2, a small school, and I'm looking forward to carrying that on. Just checking all the little boxes, my routine every day, and keeping it rolling.
Yeah, that's great. I love to hear that. And I'll be rooting you on from the D2 aspect. You know that.
D2 guys stick together. I still text a lot of the guys I went to Florida Southern or guys that I played against in Tampa, Nova Southeastern that have produced a lot of pro guys. So they stick together for sure.
Nice. Well, JJ, thanks for joining me again. Good luck the rest of the way, and can't wait to watch you Tuesday night.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate it. Have a good one.